is one thing that he might not care to discuss with even his closest friends. I doubt it being that. My old man has a wonderful opinion of Simon's financial ability, and he handles a big portion of our interests on this side. It sounds as if he'd gone bats about some woman to me. De Richleau's face was lit by his faintly cynical smile. No, he said, a man in love turns naturally to his friends for congratulations or sympathy, as his fortune with a woman proves good or ill. It can't be that. The two friends sat staring at each other in silence. Rex, giant-shouldered, virile and powerful, his humorous young face clouded with anxiety. The Duke, a slim, delicate-looking man about middle height, with fragile hands and greying hair, but with no trace of weakness in his fine, distinguished face. "Have you by any chance ever heard of a Mr. Mokata, Rex?" "Nope. Who is he, anyway?" "A new friend of Simon's who has been staying with him these last few months." "What? At his club?" "No. Simon bought a house last February, a big rambling old place in St. John's Wood. He said he wanted a garden, that's all I can tell you." "Simon? A garden?" Rex chuckled. "Simon doesn't know a geranium from a fuchsia, and why should a bachelor like Simon start running a big house at all?" "Perhaps Mr. Mokata could tell you," murmured de Richleau, "or the queer servant that he has imported." "Have you ever seen this bird? Mokata, I mean?" "Yes." "And what did you make of him?" "I disliked him intensely." "What about this servant that you mention?" "I only saw him for a moment when he crossed the hall, but he reminded me in a most unpleasant way of the bogeyman with whom I used to be threatened in my infancy." "What, is he, a black?" "A native of Madagascar, half Negro and half Polynesian. This great brute stands about 6'8". He's a bad black if ever I saw one." The Duke gently laid the long blue-grey ash of his cigar in the onyx ashtray. "There is not a doubt," he said slowly, "that Simon is involved in some very queer business. But I wanted to hear your views before taking the very exceptional step of butting in on the private affairs of even so intimate a friend. The question is now, what are we to do?" Rex drew himself up to his full magnificent height. "We are going up to that house to have a little heart-to-heart talk with Simon right now." "I'm glad," said de Richleau, "you felt like that, because I ordered the car for 10:30. Shall we go?" As de Richleau's Hispano drew up at the dead end of the dark cul-de-sac in St. John's Wood, Rex slipped out of the car and looked about him. They were shut in by the high walls of neighbouring gardens, and above a blank expanse of brick in which a single narrow door was visible, the upper stories of Simon's house showed vague and mysterious among whispering trees. The Duke pressed the bell and stepped back to view the premises. "Hello. Simon's got an observatory here," he remarked. Rex followed de Richleau's glance to a dome that crowned the house, as the door in the wall swung open, disclosing a sallow-faced manservant in dark livery. "Mr. Simon Aaron?" inquired de Richleau, but the man was already motioning them to enter, so they followed him up a short covered path, and the door clanged to behind them. "The fellow's a mute," whispered the Duke. "Deaf and dumb, I'm certain." As he spoke, the servant flung open a couple of large double doors and stood waiting for them to enter. A long, narrow room, opening into a wide salon, stretched before them. Rex clutched Richelieu's arm. "By Jove, she's here," he muttered, his eyes riveted on a tall, graceful girl who stood some yards away, talking to Simon. 3 times in the last 18 months he had chanced upon that strange, wise, beautiful face. Despite her apparent youth, she was as old as sin, Rex caught himself thinking. He had seen her first in a restaurant in Budapest, months later in a traffic jam when his car was wedged beside hers in New York, and then, strangely enough, riding along a road with 3 men.